in a rocket factory. The big thing that you could take from this social contact info is that I'm not particularly social. If you want to get in touch, LinkedIn is pretty good. Email me otherwise. If you want to see a blog post every few months, there's an RSS feed on my website. Please feel free to subscribe. This is the place I work. This is what we build. This is a solid rocket motor. You can see here, basically a tube full of fuel. You ignite it on one end and flame comes out. Real easy stuff. This is one of our liquid engines. I love this family of engines. You can see this beautiful diamond flame pattern that it has as a characteristic. And this is our workhorse, Hadley. These are all mounted on test stands at our local facility in Boulder. So we are a local company, a local manufacturing company. I think this is the most aesthetic photo that we've ever taken. So it's going to hang out with you for a minute so that you can admire it. This is my first conference talk, meaning that almost none of you actually know me and my background. I've been working supporting computer environments and software engineering teams since 2005. 2005 to 2014, I thought of myself as a Linux systems administrator. 2014, clearly the job because it had been shifts. Clearly as well, the practices of DevOps resonated with kind of where I was in my soul. So I started moving over and finding those jobs instead. I moved to Colorado itself in about 2009. I've worked primarily with Boulder County from tiny startups, very tiny, 30 people, like some of you were smaller, all the way through to the mega behemoths that are around, right? I've worked for Oracle for a few years, I worked for Workday for a few years as well. Because I was joining software companies, our practices were already kind of known, established, understood. There was nothing to land on moving the mental needle for people. Well, then I joined the manufacturing company. And then I tell you, software engineering was not a thing that they valued. They didn't care about DevOps practices. And the team was struggling when I arrived. It was a very small software engineering team that was trying to find its feet. So I joined this company, and I have a shot, finally, at aligning not just our technical practices, but the cultural practices that we heard talk about earlier today as well. What I'm going to be talking about is what we did 3.5 years ago, in the first 3 or 4 months after I arrived, to move the needle on a company that didn't care about software engineering and didn't think that we would deliver. Now I need to really take you out of the software company mindset so you know what we were dealing with, okay? When I joined this year, I was introduced to a tool called the flow meter. A flow meter, as you can imagine, measures flow through a pipe. We have a lot of pipes on these engines, so you need to know that fuel is being delivered at a sustained rate. Our flow meters are pretty good. We're talking digital flow meters, nice digital out, nice Wi-Fi card in there, ability to capture data, and so on. So when a manufacturing engineer is going to measure the flow through a pipe and then record it for quality purposes, how do you think they're recording? Well, they put the flow meter in, it's got a digital readout, it's got its Wi-Fi card. They start the flow in the pressure chamber through the flow meter, right? Like, makes total sense so far. Hope you're following me. And now it comes time to record the peak value. So what do you do? Well, you get your phone out of your back pocket, and you open the camera app. And you point at the digital dial that's connected to a Wi-Fi card, and you take a picture of it. Excellent, you have a record now. So how do you make this into an official record? Well, it's got to be an official document, right? What's an official document? Well, you go back to your desk, you copy the photo to your email account, you email it to yourself, you paste it into a Word document because a Word document is official, and you hit save. Now you need that record to do that for quality assurance at all times. So how are you keeping this record forever? Well, You open the SharePoint server that we've been using continuously for 8 years. You just send down 1,000 directories to your team's directory structure, to your team's this month's directory structure, mind you. The names team change all the time because there's no standardization. You save the documents, boom, system record. We've got an official record for our rocket engine. That engineer is not motivated by your concerns. That engineer has a deadline that is written into a contract to deliver one of the largest, most complicated objects in the world. That engineer is just looking to meet a bloody deadline. And so they're doing what they need to get a record of a number quickly. They're not thinking about the best time series database. They're not thinking about visualization. They're thinking about moving on to the next task of the deadline. That work culture comes with a management culture. So I've joined this company and I want you to know about this management culture. My first week, at the very end of the week, unexpectedly, but amicably, my new team left the company. He leaves the company and he's our lead software engineer, right? And as you know, we were these shifts. So you tend to also get directorships. So we were adopted by a new director in the result, right? It's Monday, my second week. This director is in our office, software engineer working in a satellite office. He sits us all down for 30 minutes one-on-one. And I'm new as hire on the protocol, so I'm going to be the last person interviewed. I walk in and I sit down. He says words that I'll never forget, right? He says, "It's great to have you. You're a new hire. We love new hires." He says, "The team is doing software engineering between salaries, benefits, ancillary benefits, this and that. They cost about $1.5 million a year. You're expensive." He says to me, in that context, before I came out here today, I walked around the factory floor and I talked to people and I asked them, what's the impact on your work if the software engineering team isn't here tomorrow? And then he said, the good news is, half of them said, no impact at all. Bad news is, the other half said, we don't have a software engineering team. And again, this is not a mindset that occurs about software or other disciplines. But it is about this, what we did that worked. I wanted to make sure the signal to noise ratio was accurate, and this wasn't just rose-tinted glasses. So we sat down with the software engineering team members who are still there today, and I asked them this question. You, okay? Tomorrow, none of us are here anymore. We've all won the lottery, right? We've been hit by the lottery loss. You've got to start a new team. What are the practices that you remember right now from back then that you would want to teach? And they gave me a big old list. The list is too big to put up on the slide. No, don't worry. I've got you back. I'm going to be putting it up in a sec. Split it out. It's going to be fine. But I want to hear the ideas. They would want to instill taking responsibility for teaching people new skills. They would want to overcome subtle technical issues such as automated DNS name registration, providing rapid deployment environments. They would want people to show up to the stand-up with a notebook in hand. They would want our team is in this together. They want to be okay dragging teammates from their desk at lunch to talk. They want to be unashamed that the work is hard and requires effort, and we enjoy that. They would put up a motivational poster. They would take away old hand-built deployment strategies with make and what have you onto a single virtual machine and replace everything with zero-click GitOps deployments. They would move away, Dr. Swan on a single VM, and then be in a Kubernetes environment that you can deploy to. They would also want to make rollbacks pay. What stuff? I want to start out with those of you that I'm going to characterize as technical practices. Excellent. We've got changing our deployment strategy, Boulder kickoffs, moving or hosting away from a single VM with Docker Swarm with thousands into Bash, into Kubernetes, making our rollbacks painless, and overcoming technical issues like automating AS. I picked a chunk of these when I joined. When I joined, the team was deploying to a production single VM, but they were deploying, 2, 3 times, a handful of times a month at the most. I didn't like that. I don't love that haste at all. That haste is bad news, right? So, when they were deploying, because it's single, so a fragile environment, they deploy, sometimes production deployments fail because the disk is full and no one's looking, right? Someone has to have a station and fix things like that. Terrible, terrible practice. The first thing I wanted was to stop that and edit this. So the first thing that I picked was that our foundational architectural pattern was going to be GitOps. The real truth is that for most of my career, my nemesis has been these helpful people staging into my production environment and thinking that making tweaks by hand is useful. I told the team, no. Every single deployment now is going to be activated by some event. We started with a very, very simple pattern to adopt continuous deployment practices. I know that we have the smallest committed possible, and your tip of the main was always deployable. To prove that, we just deployed. Another pattern in the called out, a very solid pattern for us, of course, is that you enable friction-free deployments very rapidly by the developers themselves in introduction. So we adopted a very simple pattern. Tag main, push, you've done a data production deployment. These patterns very quickly have an impact on your deployment behavior. We're talking for a few times a month, very quickly, tens of times a week. Within a couple of months, deploying tens of times a day. We're in best practices land finally, though. We also shifted away from a single project of a virtual machine. That thing was choking them, and we couldn't innovate in that, right? Into Kubernetes. My only mindset was, let's get into somewhere we can kind of shore our elbows, right? I started an environment where we can take advantage of your open source tools. For rollbacks, as you can imagine, Kubernetes environments are the CD. Very first production rollback in a year, about 3 weeks ago, coincidentally. No developer came and bothered me, no one came and told me about it. In a year, they tried to activate the rollback and they'll just go see, under a minute, done. I'll go see, save your life. It's a wonderful tool. With these standard patterns in place, of course, what is this question of how do you overcome technical issues like automating the NSA registration? But the truth is, I'm full of fast one on here. I don't think this actually belongs here. I think this belongs more in our natural practices. Now again, this list is too big. It's too big. So let's split it up into 3 sections that we can actually, right? Section is definitely DevOps. Second section, is this even DevOps? Third section, the kind of plausible DevOps practices that you and I can argue about over time later, right? So let's start then with definitely DevOps. We've got teaching people new skills in here. We've got overcoming technical issues with automating DNS registration. I'm still following the fast one. They're kind of the same thing. I joined. It's my first week. I'm told not just that we have deployment slowness and problems, I'm also told that we have real friction in our relationship with the IT org. The IT org is taking 3 weeks to get us on vSphere. 3 weeks to get a virtual machine on vSphere, gang, what the hell? It's taking 5 days to give us a DNS entry. It should be 5 seconds, right? 5 days? There's no way this is going to stand. So, I reached out to my networking engineer and I said, hey man, first project, do me a solid, can you delegate this other day, like control this Terraform? And his answer is, hey, I was hired a month before you, then network is building flaky. You can absolutely have that. You can't have a public one, it's got a private one. Incidentally, you've never done it before, so you need to figure it out. My initial response, being real with you, was resentment. I didn't like this at all. This is my networking engineer, and I'm here in the ass. What the heck? Now my team lead has always had a calmer head than me. And it's easy to get frustrated, he also says, hey, maybe this is the opportunity, right? Like, what are we going to do? Like, what have we got? I think he tries. So, I went away. Now, today, go proud as you're where you are. Today, if you're in this situation, just use the one product, the single thing that will solve the problem for you. 3.5 years ago, that product was a commercial cloud, but not Gov cloud. So, I had to start building my own servers. I didn't quite know what I was going to do to hatch them in, so I spent the weekend reading the DNS RSC, right? Familiar hands for all, and I'm sure everybody done the DOS experiment during the week. Taking me about a week and a half to figure out. And I'm thinking, I'll do a little bit of technical solution to this guy and it'll be happy. But then I thought, no, like we're trying to build a relationship here. So what can I do to build a relationship? And I sat down and I wrote the kind of documentation that, and then I went engineer might actually appreciate about the DNS stack and how it interacts with this and so on, right? I handed it off to him. I also showed him, look, I've got a bit of software workflow system way here. So I can just build in and hosting now in a few seconds. He was happy, I was happy, everything's a good cushion, right? Well, that isn't kind of where it ended. The next day, one of the team leads in the IT org reaches out to you. He says, so that's pretty good. So that's fast. Can you teach us? Yeah! So I'd spent that night writing a curriculum, and then, as I say, we were in a satellite office, so it's a 40-mile drive to the factory. I drove there every day. I told them every day for a few days. They didn't import resources. We didn't build the things. I don't know how you. I handed it off. Didn't know where it would land. 6 weeks later, at the company, all hands off-site, the IT director was standing up in front of the company, committing to getting 80% of their infrastructure, new infrastructure, so tooling, to finally bring stability to the tooling they use. Outside response to just trying to be nice to someone, my initial response was kind of, what did you check out? So all these DevOps. We've got showing up the standard with a notebook well organized. We've got inviting people, dragging people to come and sit with me at lunch. We've got being unashamed and enjoying the things that are hard and take effort. And putting up a nice motivational post of the team, right? In cultural context land, in my first week, my team lead let me know that he had been trying to build a team's reputation. That's what our company knew who was, right? In doing that, he had been showing up meetings, promising results, month in, month out. And he told me that by now, 6 months in, his reputation was the value shows up and promises the same result he did last month. But they have been delivering the right thing, and they have been delivering it quickly. DevOps itself has very little to say, I think, about delivering the right product to people. This is me just giving a shout out to all the product owners that all of you know. Fortunately, this is a very challenging director that I had, who had asked me to justify salaries. He was truly in our corner. He could see that we were building the wrong products. He hired as a product owner. I had a gap, though, between today and when a product owner was going to come on staff that I could work with the team in. I could see that the team wasn't just technically challenged on DevOps, their mindset needed to shift. So how do you do that? This is my first shot into my career at culture practices. How the hell did you do it? Let's talk a little bit about DevOps today, shall we? We've got the DevOps Handbook, one wonderful book I'm sure you're familiar with, those who aren't, published about 2014-ish. Contains case studies from common peers where DevOps is included. Also contains your foundational disciplines. It's called the DevOps Handbook for a good reason. We've also got Accelerate, statistically backed, right? Rigorous statistics about the practices we have and what the consequences of the practices are. So what do you about what culture we have and how we should build it? This table is from the DevOps Handbook. It's from chapter 4. Both books discuss Western models of organizational culture. And this is the one to build, right? In Accelerate, it tells us that generative, otherwise known as performance-oriented cultures, focus on their mission. How do we accomplish our goal? Everything is subordinated to good performance, to doing what we're supposed to do. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's one, that's it. How do I build that? Tell me. Well, Accelerate tells us organizational culture can exist at 3 levels in organizations. It tells us there are basic assumptions, values, and artifacts. I saw artifacts. I'm going to reveal I'm a movie person. I thought artifacts, sick, culture. I can do that, yeah. Well, what does the DevOps Handbook tell us about culture? Well, it quotes genuinely one of our top 5 favorite laws in computer science, Conway's Law. It tells us Dr. Melvin Conway performed the famous experiment in 1968 with a contract research organization that had 8 people who were commissioned to produce a COBOL and an algol compiler. He observed, after some initial estimates of difficulty and time, 5 people were assigned to the COBOL job, 3 to the algol job. The resulting COBOL compiler has 5 passes. The resulting algol compiler has 3, and from this we get Conway's famous law. Organizations which design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of those organizations. Communication structure, right? Artifacts. I knew what I wanted this team to be. I wanted this team to get laser focused on deliver. That are the 3 most important things that we can do. So how are we going to do it? Well, we have to get organized. You see, as a team, we had an organization. You know, planning, retrospectives, these things, none of them. We did have stand-up, though. And I needed people to start taking it more seriously because they're doing it, and all day, and it's sometimes, all the time. So I started showing up with a notebook because I read some productivity essay by a PhD student. He explained that the most important thing he had done throughout his PhD was to keep track of his work every day, keep track of his progress towards his goals. And I was just like, it's good enough for a PhD, it's good enough for me, right? So I started showing up to stand with a notebook with the notes of the previous day's work, very organized, giving Chris messaging. Within a few weeks, I had teammates showing up with notebooks. And then we would give Chris messaging. And when we were starting to get focused on bigger problems, we would start to deliver. So what told us about what the poster? This is the poster. It's royalty-free. You're welcome to use it if you like. I never wrote it. I wanted to put some pep in that step, right? I wanted them to get on with the game. And I thought about what the most useful and powerful motivational tool that I'd ever seen in my career was. And I remember my boss was Oracle, right, my team lead. And he had this up on his desk. And I came in every day and I sat down and I thought, hell yeah, that's what I want to do. Right today, I'm going to deliver, I'm going to get it done, and then I'm going to do more. And I thought, I'll bring it forward. So what did I do? Well, that night I ordered a copy from posters.com that was 7 feet tall. I didn't tell anyone. I put rush shipping on it. I did build the company for the shipping. And when it arrived, I just put it up without talking to my team. But I talked to one person on my team, the taller guy on my team. It's just like no that. We put up this together, and then it sounded that morning, and I told, hey, Anne, and just got on a reel. This is meaning something to me. For my heart, for my sleep, I let myself get a bit uncomfortable. I told them, this is who we need to be. We need to be more focused on finishing our stuff and less on going on tangents. We need to get done, because done is the engine of a more. I hope you can hear or are not embarrassed to show that I enjoy the work. And then I'm not embarrassed at all, and the work is hard. I'm going to do it anyway. This is the attitude that I'm bringing to these folks. And they were very responsive to it. It was about being a person on the team. Now, I did mention that I made people get out of their desks to have lunch. I don't like doing that. I want to be with you my perfect lunch. I sit at my computer, I open my sorry Kindle app on my computer, and I read it. That's really what I like to do. But I thought, my God, how am I going to impact these communication structures if we're not communicating? And so, I made these guys come and get lunch with me. That's what I did. The communication started to get lubricated. We started delivering at cadence. We were doing great. The thing about these practices is, I'm not telling you anything difficult. You know I thought we're going to be more maturity, but you know in your own way, but you're specific communication points, friction with other teams. AJ, pleasure to see you. Excellent. You know where these things exist for you. Figure it out. You could do that. You can get out of your comfort zone, you go all over. You can have an impact on your relationships with other teams. Now, we've been talking culture for so long that I get tired. So I also want to persuade you that manufacturing is a viable job market, not ambitious at all, right? I'm going to be putting these slides on my website. Don't worry about these links. I think you'll remember the title more than anything. These are primarily from the DoD. The reason is the United States government drives modernization of manufacturing, and a big factor in that is the DoD. You have to be okay with just that as a background for us, right? That relationship goes all the way back to 1791, Alexander Hamilton for BBK. You know this, right? Third Hager? Yes. You'll see the titles of this study that the DoD did. The first one, just to persuade you that there actually is about manufacturing, the study is assessing and strengthening the manufacturing and supply chain resiliency. But look at the other three. See if this sounds to you like you. Detecting agile BS. How to justify your budget when doing DevSecOps. And is your development environment holding you back? This here is a diagram from a DoD white paper about manufacturing. Do you recognize the technologies up there? They've recognized that this is what's missing. Now, it's not just the DoD that's investing in these things. There is Manufacturing USA that's investing in manufacturing in the United States as a whole. Manufacturing USA has a child called Manufacturing Times Digital. And their mission is to help companies build the software systems that they need to support the manufacturing that we need, right? Now, you may be thinking, I don't want to work in Jenkins anymore. We got a shout out for Jenkins earlier, didn't we? You may be thinking this isn't technically challenging enough, and good for you if it isn't. This is from a manufacturing standard. Each of these clear white bubbles is a specific discipline that has a unique kind of software that supports manufacturing in a company. Those dotted arrows, they're cues sending messages among systems. You can build large distributed systems in these environments. You can have your cake and you can eat it too. I've been talking to you for a while. So we're wrapping up. We'll wrap up with this plausibly DevOps argument that we might have later. The practice here is emphasizing that the team is in it together. And the story that goes with it is that it turned out that some contractors that we worked with had set up a piece of software. The piece of software It was misbehaving, and how I find out about it, that 2 months in now, our favorite director shows up, and he says, you've got to help us out. It's taken people 8, 12, 16 hours to attach a PDF to a bloody web page. The thing keeps timing out. It keeps crashing. It keeps going down. You've got to fix this, you guys. So I take a look, and it turns out the contractors had actually implemented it in Kubernetes. I never knew there had been a cluster at the company for 2.5 years. I'm going to let this pass. I take a look at the cluster. As you can imagine, it's radically under-resourced. This was not a Kubernetes specialist shop that had set it up. They were just asked to do it, so they did. I don't know the background there. It's none of my beeswax, right? Truth is, it's in trouble. I wanted to see if we could do a lift and shift to another cluster and then just point DNS over. There were other technical constraints preventing that solution, so we had to upgrade it in place, because in Azure, if you're too many versions of Kubernetes behind, you can't get more RAM, yo. You've got to upgrade first. So, 2 months of prod Kubernetes experience, and I've got to deal with this alien project. I asked my team, will you please sit down with me? You've been working with Kate about as long as I have. We'll stay behind one night. We'll make this happen, right? And we had one of those wonderful nights that you have in these very small team environments, where 5:30 to 6, you make a ton of progress. 6:30 to 7, it's slower, but you're getting there. 7:30 to 8, and no one's done anything. 8 to 8:15, the application is not coming up. 8:30, and we've run out of gas. You all know the feeling. You've been in the room. No one's talking to each other. No one's sharing ideas. No one's trying to get things done. And so I reminded the team, we're a team here. We've been working for months. We've made so much progress. Come on, gang, we've been in here for a few hours now. Let's just get ourselves over the hurdle. We're in this together. We're not leaving without each other. Get after it with me. And I asked them what their ideas are, and wouldn't you know, 10 minutes of conversation, 3 different ideas. We've cobbled it together. We've solved the problem. We have one of those glorious moments where you sit back, watch the thing work, and crack open the omnipresent beer at these companies. It was a good time. Is it DevOps? To just encourage people in the room? Hell yes. Yes, it is. And I'll fight you on that. So, at a tiny manufacturing company, I actually got the chance to do cultural DevOps as well as technical DevOps. I got to see that it can actually change cadences throughout the company, that our work really matters. Today, we've got a DevOps team, we have a platform engineering team, we have a software engineering team. We've kind of won the cultural war. We've got leaders in the company saying that we're doing good work and pushing them forwards harder and faster than they thought we would. There's one idea here that I want to leave you with. It's the corny rocket engine metaphor, right? A rocket engine doesn't fly because of a single turbine, a single pipe, any of that. It's parts working together. Your skill set brings a team and makes the parts work together so that you can move forwards the same way these engines move vehicles forwards. It's loud, it's fast, and you're going into the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions before we move on?
Before you start, I'm not a rocket engineer.
Yeah, so I just had a question about like if you ran into any friction with sort of management level folks. I know a lot of, a big component of culture change is the management, right? So like getting people to actually buy in and start to, encourage DevOps practices and start to socialize those changes, right? Did you feel like you were able to get that buy-in? What really allowed you to get that buy-in?
Sure. I think that question makes a ton of sense in companies with mature practices. How do you get people to buy into what they know they should be doing? We didn't have results. We didn't have deliveries. We started getting results and deliveries. We were able to leach the practice out into an IT org that instead of 3 weeks for a VM now takes 2 minutes. You know, the results that you can build speak for themselves when you go somewhere that they've never been seen before. We didn't have to preach to management, you should be paying attention. The people that we showed did it for us. I was very fortunate. These manufacturing companies, I'm not joking, they're a tinder pile and you're a spark. Just go in there and light a flame.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's give it up.